Thank you, Andrew, for your elaborate presentation. I have two questions. And the first is, you mentioned that UNBS wants to change the way standards are developed, and they want to develop technical regulations. So I'm just wondering, what is preventing UNBS from changing the way standards are developed? That's the first question. The second one, you also mentioned, you mentioned the path that technical regulation should take. And at the tail end was sanctions. So my question is, do technical regulations have to lead to sanctions? And my understanding of regulations may be from the perspective of a lawyer. So I'm just also wondering, from the perspective of standards, does sanctions have to be the end game?
I may forget. Hey, this is gray hair. Very quickly, start with the last one. The elements, sanctions are not it wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4, but those are elements that must be in a technical regulation. The reason you are making it a regulation is because you want people to follow the requirements. Otherwise, it would just be advice. It would just be maybe a paper in the writing in the newspaper. But when you make it a regulation, you want on the road going down. Where there's supposed to be one lane, there will be four lanes of cars. Nowadays, it's brazen, even when the traffic man is there. So it's important that a technical regulation clearly identifies and elaborates what is going to happen to you if you don't follow it. UNBS changed the way standards. No, we are not changing the way standards are developed. We are saying standards are going to be developed in the usual standards development process. But where we are defining compulsory standards, we are saying, wait a bit. Is there an agency with a mandate? Because the recommendation for compulsory status comes from the TC. So at that point, we have a standard, and the recommendation is that this should be made compulsory because of X, Y, Z. Public health, if it is not followed, people may die. If they eat things with high levels of aflatoxin. So we are saying, wait, before we make it the standard compulsory, because the standard is not only for regulating health and safety. Part of that standard is for guiding people in research and what. And I gave you the example of the shoes. If you make the standard compulsory, everything under there becomes compulsory, even when it is not really that critical. We are saying, wait, if there is an agency that has a mandate to implement this standard, now we have ministry. let us, right now we are proactively writing that age, saying this standard is coming up, have the facility support conflict assessment part of your procedures, so that not have standards on our books where the entity that is supposed to be enforcing not defined. At the end of the day, everybody is looking at UNBS. We can't have that capacity to do everything from shoes to food to textiles to what. Many of these areas, they are already agencies that have that mandate written into their laws. So we are giving them the standard. We are training them on how to develop technical regulations that reference standards. Because what may happen, they may actually take the standard and then reference all of it, including those parts or specifications that are not really required for the aim for which they want to enforce in that area. So we are already going down this road. No new standards are coming up that do not have clear entities that are going to enforce. Sometimes we realize there is no MDA that has the mandate in this area. UNBS, if we have the capacity, we take it on. And we don't go with it as a compulsory standard, we develop a technical regulation as well. So that over time on our books, the compulsory standards will slightly die out, and we have more technical regulations. And at probably after about 50 years, we may have UNBS just approving and declaring standards as voluntary, but then the aspect of enforcement will be on the basis of technical regulations that reference the standards.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I can see that people who are dying, but in the interest of time, I request that you put your question down. Andrew will be with us till the end of today and also through tomorrow. He will kindly answer that. He has also promised that the PowerPoint will be shared because he used more time than we expected. So let's go to the... The sanction will be for him to answer questions during our breaks. So let's have George for the next presentation. George, I hope you can use the least possible minimum time. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to move the presentation.
Andrew, now we can see why you have summoned all TC chairs and their voices. I would say. I'm going to talk about e-things. Amna, you can ask us.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Idi. My question goes to referencing the standard in the technical regulations. If I understood you well, at first I thought even our regulations a technical regulation, so we could reference a standard in there. But then at the end, it's seeming like the technical regulations are the ones of UNBS where you turn the standard into a technical regulation. But if it's the other way, my question is, we have regulations where we had referenced a Ugandan standards before we went into the harmonization of ESC. And now, probably these standards are now have been harmonized into ESC. Does that mean that now what we have, our regulations invalid in that area where we referenced a Ugandan standard? That's 1, 2. Two, still in referencing standards. We've had, like in my sector, we've been referencing generally. We put a general statement in the regulation that probably this particular section shall conform to the relevant UNBS standard. And then, sorry, Ugandan standard. Sorry about that. And then when it comes to implementation, for us, we pick out that standard we know applies. When it comes to enforcement, now, for example, in animal health, we wrote to ED, UNBS, through the PS, and they gave us all the standards regarding animal health or livestock. All of them, we have them. So when we go in enforcement, for us, we know which standard should be implemented at that area. So we enforce according to that standard. But in the law, we didn't mention the name of the standard. Does that still stand, or we really have to quote the standard? Thank you.
That standard in Uganda, we withdraw the Uganda standard. So it is no longer applicable. So you are referencing a Uganda standard that was withdrawn. So you need to replace that with the new standard, which is now US EAS XYZ. What you currently have is US XPR. You need to review. In the second case, it is a poor attempt at trying to follow the EU model. You need at best maybe to get a hyperlink from George that you can put in your standard. This hyperlink is to our standards catalog, which is updated whenever there are changes in any standards. So that now you can just refer to that hyperlink, go to it anytime. It will have the most up-to-date and applicable standards. So if it is a standard on product X, you can say product X that is on this hyperlink, that is on this document, that is accessible through this hyperlink. Then it will take you to the latest catalog of UNBS, which we always keep up to date.
So I think we need to have a training for MDS, Dr. Amina, for MDS on the concept of referencing standards in regulations. Because in there also, when you are going to copy the specification and you want to put it inside the regulation, Andrew did enough time to talk about copyright, that may bring you into copyright and patent-related issues. So I think we need to have that training. So I can't see my presentation on the screen. Now it is there. So I want to very briefly take you through the EPING tool, the EPING SPS and TBT platform of the WTO. So, in the outline, I will just give you a brief background. I will talk about the main functions of the tool. And I think time may not allow. Probably maybe my thinking was to update our current registration that was coming from the old tool to the new tool, and also register those who may not be registered on the tool. And then I want to also talk, I think I will talk about a little bit about the stakeholders engagement using the e-tool coordination mechanism. So let's look from the EPING SPS and TBT notification alert system that was established here in Uganda. It was a project, a collaboration between the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives and United Nations Department for Social and Economic Affairs to the establishment of the current tool that has become a global tool and all the WTO members are now using. So, before the establishment of these integrated tools, the SPS and TBT committees of WTO had maintained 5 e-tools. The first one was the SPS Information Management System, the SPS IMS, and there was also the TBT IMS. The third one was the SPS Notification Submission System, or SPS NSSS, which was used for submitting SPS notification. Some of you could have used it, but maybe not many of you have used it. And then the fourth one was the TBT NSS, and this one was specifically used for submitting TBT notifications. And then the all EPING SPS and TBT notification alert system that was specifically established by United Nations to be used by developing and least developed countries. So, around about 2021, due to changes in technology, you know, the ICT field is a very fast changing field. The WTO started to integrate the 5 tools I talked about in the previous slide with a number of objectives. The first one was to reduce the complexity of the tools. The second one, there used to be a lot of data errors, was to reduce the data errors. The third one was to upgrade the IT to the current IT structures. And then the fourth one was to implement a single sign-in. And those who probably have been attending meetings of the WTO committees or bodies like SPS TBT will agree with me that we now have one sign-in. Once you have been accredited by our embassy, our mission in Geneva, you can log in using the same sign-in to attend the TBT meeting, the SPS meeting, the Trade Facilitation Committee meeting. So that is the single sign-in I'm talking about. And then overall, if you have so many systems, there are costs that talks to the maintenance. So they wanted to reduce the maintenance cost. So what the Secretariat then did was to enhance and integrate those 5 systems into what is now being called the EPING, SPS, and TBT platform. Remember in 2016, when the EPING was established here in Uganda, Australia also came on board, and they were here in Kampala. So we promoted the adoption of that tool at that time to be adopted at the WTO level. And that also coincided with a proposal that was brought before the TBT and SPS committee by Canada, that instead of having at that time 164 national tools, at that time there were 164 WTO members, now we are 166 from last year. It is better, it makes economic sense for one global tool to be established. So then that's when the EPING, SPS, and TBT notification alert system was established. So this was integrated into what is now being called the EPING, SPS, and TBT platform. So it is a tool now that is being used by both the TBT committee and the SPS committee. And then in March 2022, all IT tools, the 5, were discontinued and were replaced by the e-ping SPS and TBT platform. And when you get onto the home page, the dashboard of the new platform, this is how it looks. The home page looks very much similar to the old system. So what are the main functions? I will do this so that I go through the main functions. So the current integrated tool, the SPS and TBT platform, has got 3 main functions. There is a function for submitting both TBT and SPS notifications. Previously, there was one for TBT and there was one tool for SPS, but now this has been integrated using a single login. The second one is for you to stay informed what SPS and TBT draft measures are being notified to the WTO. That will affect your market access or market entry. And then the third one is a function that enables you to coordinate at international level and also at national level. Remember, when we are establishing the all e-ping here, we advocated for a national forum to be part of the system so that we are able to coordinate ourselves, discuss relevant notification, relevant TBT issues, relevant SPS issues using the tool. So that which used to be in the TBT and IMS for TBT notification and SPS IMS for SPS notification. Now you can find all the SPS and TBT notification in one location in the platform. Secondly, we were talking about specific trade concerns, the complaints that are raised in the TBT and SPS committee in respect of draft measures, draft TBT or SPS measure that has been notified to WTO, or in respect of measures that are already in force. So you can now find both the SPS and TBT specific trade concerns in one location. The third one is any SPS and TBT documents. If we make a submission as Uganda to the SPS committee or the TBT committee, we submit to the secretariat, it's circulated to all the members. If we search in the platform, we should be able to locate and retrieve that submission. And then it has contact information for SPS and TBT national inquiry points and national notification authorities. And then there are now videos that has been developed that will guide you how to get information on the platform, how to register on the platform, how to access the electronic agenda for TBT and SPS committee meetings. So those are the kind of information that you can get on the platform. So let's talk about the updates in terms of the uses of the platform. But before maybe we look at the statistics, I wanted to highlight one thing, that when we were taking the e-ping to the WTO, the big members like the EU, the US, they had their national system, except Canada that said that they have brought down their national system, and they were also advocating for one system to be developed. So at that time, the US, the EU, and other big members, they had said that they would maintain their national system. But then at some point along the way, they also abandoned their national system. We used to have the Notify US, and they had also helped Kenya to establish a similar platform, Notify Kenya TBT. So now everybody in the WTO is using one integrated system for managing, for submission, of notification, managing specific trade concern, and SPS and TBT documents that are discussed in the SPS and TBT committees. Unfortunately, Diana is not here because she had also mentioned that in the context of the AFCFTA Secretariat, there is a recommendation that a similar system should be established for Africa. And what I would have been interested to know is how they are going to avoid duplication, because it's the same duplication that made all the WTO members to agree to have one system. So if I have already submitted, notified, for example, a standard to the TBT and SPS committee, why should I again go to the AFCFTA notification system and notify the same standard? Why can we explore the possibility of integrating what we are thinking of developing with what the WTO is having, so that if we notify an SPS measure, then our system should be able to pick that notification from the WTO SPS and TBT platform. So in terms of the uptake, the users, as of March 2024, the total number of users of the platform was over 20,000. And the types of user was outreach admins, those users that have the administrative rights to engage and conduct consultations at international level, and grant users at national level to participate in national forum to discuss SPS and TBT issues, including notifications, were 55%. And those that were responsible to grant permission to government officials who are working SPS and TBT institutions to draft notification, to submit notification, were making up 25%. So generally, there were 276 users from 75 members, WTO members, that had for SPS, SPS are the admin rights. So when you look at the pie chart now, we'll find that at that time, 47% of the users of the platform were coming from the public sector, and these are SPS and TBT institutions like UNBS, like agriculture here in Uganda, like NDA and the rest. NDA, some are now not there, probably, maybe UCDA and the rest. So the private sector was 45%, and then the other percentage remaining was mixed. Maybe there are some research institutions, there are people who are researching on SPS and TBT notification. I know a German who got a PhD in this area of SPS notification and TBT notification. So they were making up about 13%. And as of October 2024, again, statistics coming from the WTO Secretariat, the number of users had gone to 25,000 globally, and 28% of the users were coming from the developed WTO countries, 63% from developing countries, and only 9% from countries like Uganda that are categorized as LDCs. But when you go down, the statistics for top members by registration, the US is leading with 1,000, slightly over 1,400 users. Vietnam, it is a developing country. It has slightly over 1,100 users. And Uganda, we are at around 423. And this is the reason why I included this slide in this presentation, because most of the 423 users that we have on the platform now were users that were migrated from the old system to the new system. So it is very important for us to update this registration. I know some people could have left by an act of probably maybe passing away. They are no longer part of this. So we need to update our system to register new users, to remove those users that are no longer, who are no longer supposed to be there. And at the beginning of the e-ping, we were able to get support from US8, and it was the first time in 2016 that we conducted national awareness workshops throughout Uganda on the SPS agreement and the TBT agreement, including the e-ping. Of course, they funded it in the context of promoting the use of the e-ping in Uganda, but they also took advantage and created awareness on the two agreements. So, I will skip this. I will skip this. I will also skip this, but the notification function are supposed to be used by government officials who are working SPS and TBT institution, Ministry of Agriculture, UNDS, TBT and SPS notification authority, to update the contact information for the national notification authorities and national inquiry points. Previously, before the SPS and TBT platform was established, you needed to send this information to WTO Secretariat, and then they would update it. But now, the officials who are granted the notification admin rights are able to update this information, and Richard is not here. I think on our national SPS notification, we still have contact information of the late Mr. Lauren Bategana, who was working in the Ministry of Trade. So probably maybe it is something that Richard needed to take note of. We need now to update that information, and we can update it from here. We don't need to send the new contact information to WTO Secretariat. They can also prepare and submit both TBT and SPS notification online, and then the notification admin rights, as I said earlier, can also grant permission for submitting both SPS and TBT notification or on a drafting. I'm going to skip in the interest of time. Stay informed. We were talking about meeting requirements. For you to meet requirements when they are exporting to the EU, you must have up-to-date information. In other words, you cannot trade if you don't have up-to-date information. If the requirements in a measure, an SPS measure, has changed, and you are still doing conformity assessment based on the old requirements, and you take the consignment to the destination market, then that consignment is going to be rejected. So in order for you to trade, you need to have up-to-date information. So it goes back to referencing standard in SPS measures, in TBT technical regulations. Are you referencing up to the current version, the current edition of the standard, or you are referencing an outdated edition of the standard that has been updated, maybe due to technological development, or maybe there is new science that has come, and the specifications, the requirements in the standard has changed. So how does the e-ping help you to stay informed? You can search for the notification if you are not registered, but you can also register so that the system can filter the notification for you. Notification announce, in most cases, propose new requirements or changes to existing requirements. So if you register on the e-ping, because you can use it like any other website, but when you register, then you can receive alerts either on a weekly or daily basis. You can also filter the notification so that you get only notification that for the products you are either exporting, you are producing, or you are regulating, and also going to the countries or the destination markets, so that you don't get so many of them on in your mailbox. You can also participate in the national discussion forum, okay, and also be contacted. So I'm going to just focus on that aspect of registered users. So as I've already said, you can, if you are a registered user, you can search for notification, trade concern. You can get contact information of the inquiry points and notification authority. You can also get SPS and TBT documents. You receive email alerts on relevant notification based on the product on which you want to receive notification and the market preference, where your product is going, or the country that you're interested in monitoring regulatory development if you work for government. You can save filters for notification, and you can also participate in the national discussion forum. So those are the reasons why you should register to keep up to date on new or change regulations, and to share notification with interested stakeholders. If you are working for Otexa, I'm seeing Florence there, and you have seen, and you are a registered user, and you have seen a notification that is relevant for your sector, then you should be able, if you are registered on the system, to share that notification and also initiate discussion in the national forum. So how do you register? This is how it begins. On the homepage of the platform, if you look up there, there's a link to register, or you can go through the link at the bottom of the platform where they receive alerts or link. And then you fill in the registration form with your personal information. That includes your name, your email address, your sector, your country, your organizations, and those other fields like the gender. And then on this page, on this portion of the registration form, this is where you select products and markets of interest. On which product do you want to receive notification, and submitted by which country? If you are exporting fresh fruit and vegetables to the EU, then you are going to indicate that I only want to receive notification on fresh foods or vegetables, but only those that are submitted by the EU, because the notification can be very many. So you only want to have information that is only relevant to the products you're handling, to the products you're exporting, and to the destination where you're exporting the product. And then here, then you then indicate whether you want to receive this information on a daily basis, which is the default, and it is advisable to do that so that you don't end up getting the information after 1 week, and you have to put aside a lot of time in order to go through what the system has delivered in your mailbox. After that, when you have filled all this, then you click register, and then you are registered on the e-pay. So I wanted to talk about this, as I think the last slide, Madam Moderator. We all know that in Uganda at the moment, from the public sector, we have been told by the PSST that there is no money for meeting, there's no money for events like this one, workshops, and for creating awareness. So that money is not there. So our current national budget does not provide for covering stakeholders, coordination meetings, seminars, workshops, etc. Whatever name you want to give to this kind of events, like the one we're having today. But also, what I have noted from 2022, when this new platform was established and made available for use globally, it has been very difficult to get donor support to conduct this kind of meetings. Because I've written so many concept notes that in the past were very easy to get donors for honor and fun. Remember, I see some people who are here with us, how we conducted the 8th triennial review of the TBT agreement. We had several meetings, and all that was funded by donors. At the moment, it's very difficult to get. And because of that, because the national budgets are not providing, and it is also difficult to get support from donors, most national committees are not meeting. Dr. Yes, escaped, I think, told us how the National SPS Committee is dormant. Most likely it is dormant because there is no money for running the committees, meetings of the committee. So, the EPING SPS and TBT platform, National Forum provides an alternative virtual mechanism for coordinating SPS and TBT stakeholders at national level. And my view is that we should embrace it. And that's why it is important to update our old registration that was migrated from the old system to the new platform and registered also more users so that we can do some coordination work until when maybe funding will allow us to work together and meet in physical mode. So it is crucial for us to update the old EPING registrations and promote the use of the EPING SPS and TBT platform for stakeholders' engagement in Uganda. Those who are registered in the current platform are seeing some engagement. Countries that are submitting comments on other members' notifications. At the moment, they are posting and sharing that information using the EPING, using the international forum, which is the opposite of the national forum, to indicate to other members that we have submitted comments on this particular notification that probably maybe has been submitted by Uganda. We have received that kind of information a lot of time because we submit a lot of notifications, especially in the TBT area. So we need to embrace this, and we need to find a way of seeing whether it is still possible. Remember, when the old EPING was introduced, there was partnership between UNBS with various private sector associations, the flowers people, the organic people, and I've started engaging with some of those associations to see whether they can call their members, say like maybe in their boardroom, and then we take ourselves there. We introduce the new platform, we train them how to use it, and then we register them so that for the time being that we don't have money for conducting physical meetings, we can use the platform to engage with the stakeholders. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for Mr. Opio. In the interest of time, I will suggest that any question related to how to register or for the EPING or any other information in that regard, kindly write it and address it to George. He's very passionate about this EPING, and therefore he will be willing to assist you. You might even leave after you have registered. Then the other benefits will come your way. Okay. So since we are not going to get questions directly now, I want to only allow Professor to make one comment, and then we'll go to the next item. It's okay.
I just wanted to thank Mr. George Opio for his presentation and for the work that he's been doing. The passion, you can feel the passion when he's presenting. And also to mention that when the 11 fellows who came to participate in this project were in the US, the 2 weeks we were in Washington, D.C., they usually received there. And we have presentations from the US folks who are in Washington, D.C. And then when they were heading out, we were with them again and we had more presentations. in addition to what they also presented what they had been doing. But one of the presentations was talking about these notifications, and they acknowledged Uganda, how you had been doing very well. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you very much, Professor. Consensus has been taken, and we have agreed that the panel discussion, for the interest of comprehension. I'm told that our comprehension span has reduced significantly, close to negative, and therefore that we should do the panel discussion in the morning with a recap of today's session, should Professor consent.
Thank you so much for moderator and for moderating the afternoon session. I can see it on the faces, especially for my professor at the end there. I had to check on him several times whether he was still awake. But I do understand too much information, again, we may go into the negative mode, and we don't want to do that. So maybe, could we, as a compromise, maybe agree to start like 30 minutes early? Or should we keep 9 a.m.? 9? At this time, we won't have people going to the other protea, so hopefully we can start early. But you're coming back, are you? You promise? And I'm okay, of course, I'm okay. I believe in consensus decisions. Moderator, did you? I didn't know whether I needed, apart from,
try and stimulate our brains to go and reflect on these issues we are discussing. You know, one of the last articles I wrote in the newspaper where I was talking about food safety, I was reminding us that we eat food every day. I know Irene works with National Drug Authority. I had been in National Drug Authority on the board for 5 years, and I was chairing the Veterinary Medicines Committee. We were so concerned about the residues of these drugs in food products because of not observing the withdrawal period. Then I said, okay, leaving aside these residues, leaving aside people misusing drugs that has led to microbial resistance, we should be more worried about food. Anything that makes food unwholesome, it is actually a poison. And I always tell people from a food safety point of view, death is not an event. Death is a process. You can be there wearing party clothes, looking smart. When you are actually dying, because if we are eating things we don't trust. So I was brainstorming with my sister here during break, saying, okay, for them now as exporters, they went to parliament through advocates, they were granted permits to inspect the export farms so that at least the products going to the EU are not bounced. So we are concerned about the international community, the consumers there. What about us? So she mentioned something that really touched me. People are busy even building mansions, storage buildings, expensive houses, and yet they are eating anything, which means that we are taking in poison and our lives are going to be short-lived. And what about the investments we are making? What are they for? Why don't we invest in food? Probably people are not aware. That's why on our televisions, we are hearing more politics than food safety. You turn on radio, turn on anything. Either they are talking about love or politics. But I mean, if you are eating to your grave, if you're going to be diagnosed with what disease at 30-something, what is the use? Even love will not make sense. Love will also end somewhere. And also the politics end somewhere. How many important politicians have we lost? But for now, as we move towards 2026, the focus is on politics. But how can we get people to get interested and know that the issues of food safety are life and death? People are dying slowly. You know, we were in a workshop, I think Professor Mianjo was there in Africana, where Makerere, I think Makerere and SIDA, we had a big international conference. And people are saying, this thing of aflatoxins, people are exaggerating. If it was true, why aren't people dying? And I remember I put up my hand and I said, you don't think that not every cause of death will cause acute death. For us veterinarians and other health people, we know that the causes of death can be paracute if the cause is like this poison which kills someone instantly, or accident, or anthrax, and other pathogens. But most of the time, the pathogens or whatever etiological factors cause death, they don't cause paracute or acute death. Most of the causes of death are chronic actually. And because people die slowly, they don't mind. I mean, you wake up, you are not yourself. You are not walking well. You ignore. You don't feel like yourself, you ignore. How can we awaken people? Let me ask my sister to come and say something. We are saying, supposing there was a seed funding for us to do an initial talk show. I know we are sitting near NBS. I wish it was possible to just do an initial talk show. And then we identify a good media house like NBS to partner so that there is a regular weekly program where you are talking about these issues. If we talked about these issues and you get the message, I'm sure people will change. I stopped eating cabbages and French beans when I went for 1 month training in the Netherlands on food safety governance. I, of course, had been doing food safety on the animal side. That was my first time to do on the crop side. And I said, my God, acaricides are so dangerous. And I mean pesticides. You know, I'm from the world of acaricide. Pesticides are so dangerous, and the people spray tomatoes and bring to the market. When we went through the Netherlands for 1 month, and the inspectors were inspecting these farms, The rule is once any flowering plant brings out a flower, no more spraying, because any spraying means that the harvest will have residues. The wisdom period will not be long enough for it to come out. And from that day, I came back. I even told my husband, please don't bring cabbages here. But I think if the message can be sent out regularly in languages and in forms people understand, probably we'll have convents, we'll have people joining the struggle. Because if we remain few, the scientists, for those of us who know we remain few, nothing will happen. They will just look at us and say, Abasoma. They say, Abasoma, you are spoiled. Recently, my dear, you come and say something to add on. You people, you are the ones in the business, and for us, sometimes in the government, we are so comfortable. We think that since the government people we exempted, we don't pay certain taxes, even death will be exempted. So sometimes we are so comfortable when you work for government, you're sure of your salary, and you know that retirement is coming in 10 years. Sometimes life looks predictable. But for you people in the private sector, I'm sure you understand how uncertainty, how unpredictable things can be. Let me ask you to say something. She will also say something.
Thank you very much, Tim. Our conversation with Doctor was really around food, where we talked about a family that builds a home of 3 billion, and then a tomato of 500 shillings kills an entire family. So we have to be accountable to our bodies on what we consume and how we feed our families. And how do we do this? I think we need to create thorough awareness. In our conversation, I shared with her how the export farms have farm permits that you cannot harvest and export. But all the vegetables and fruits that arrive in the Kampala markets are not yet inspected. There are no permits that allow them to come to the markets and eventually buy from there and feed our families. So what is the problem? I think the problem is really us. But then we discussed and said, how do we get alternatives to giving information out there? And we said, could we then think about a farmers' parliament where farmers could be engaged to talk about their ordeal when it comes to farming for us? Could we change the narrative of the daily political talk shows to daily food talk shows so that we are sure? And in a way, we say that even if the world put down all the munitions and all those other things they use in war, but we continue to consume bad food, unsafe food, automatically. Food is more dangerous. It is more destructive. So we need to do something. The markets we are in there, of course, they have put a list of requirements, and we are complying. But when it comes to us, and the safety of the farmer as well, farmers are dying. Not because they are dying not of the food they are growing, but what they are using, the processes they go through to feed our families. So we need to think of a way. Either we do animated videos, we need to do something. In pack houses, we've done this. But in the farms, we haven't. Especially for farms that feed me daily, I have not. So we thought of that unique idea of a farmers' parliament. We could think of many ideas, but please, let's walk the talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I'm in support of this, much as I was not part of the discussion. But from my engagement with the producers and different arrangements, I have gone out to train producers of fresh fruits and vegetables, but there are some people also producing for the local market. And every time I have finished the training, the next information I have is that everybody has gone on strike, not to produce for this farm until they have been provided protective wear. So people are doing all this out of lack of knowledge. people don't know. This man comes home, he buys his pesticide, he keeps it under the bed. You know, you can just imagine what happens. This person is sick from Monday to Monday, January to January, and they think the neighbor is bewitching because they don't know. So this is a very good idea. It is welcome. I think I've watched something on, is it Okada? They have a program about the women. So if we can also start and look for donors to support us, to put our case across and we sensitize people, I think we shall get a buy-in. Everybody loves a food. Right now I'm a mother. My kid is 4 years old. I'm very proud. But all the time I make a joke with my maid. My maid says, but for you, mommy, you're very keen with tomatoes. You don't want tomatoes that have white on them. Now the baby will need tomatoes. What shall we do? You see? I know he needs the tomatoes. My big son also needs salads. But I have always stopped him to eat salads until I specify this farmer and I tell the farmer, I will buy at a higher cost that one which you have not sprayed. So people know this, the demand is there, but we really need to raise awareness with videos constantly, and I think we can make a change. The reason why people don't demand is because they don't know. When they know, they will demand. I was asking one of the doctors from Ministry of Agriculture. I told them everything that comes to town is inspected. When it comes to animals, they have animal checkpoints. But for food, everything just comes in with all the rubbish into Kampala. Then people are complaining about Chitezi. I mean, not dumping sites for Kasasiro. Why don't we just stop everything before it comes to Kampala? Anyway, it is a long story, but I'm behind the idea. Thank you.
Before, I can see we have 2 points. I think the break we had when the microphone was acting up helped us. Now we are waking up with practical solutions, which we should capture while the ideas are flowing. So I like the idea of us collaborating. I just wanted to mention that we have another NGO here, which is registered here in Uganda, but it operates in the whole East African community. And it works with researchers, because as you were talking, I was like, we need the data also. We need the data to research the evidence, to test those tomatoes, to go sample the food we are eating, test, and then we talk when we actually have the data. So that's a good collaborating point.
For me, mine is very easy. I'm a farmer myself. I do grow eggplant, green pepper, Nentula. Nentula, this time I plant the white one. You know the white one? I don't spray them at all. And they brought a lot of them actually, a lot, and I failed to get the market for them. The white ones. But I took them to the market in Kajansi, and I told them mine are not sprayed at all. They said, no, yours are not very good. They wrote very fast. Then in my head, I said, these people, they love chemicals. So you can see the knowledge that spraying is very, very important to preserve the fruits and vegetables, which is the wrong information. But it's possible to grow food without what? Spraying. What I used to do whenever I see a plant trying to dry up, I uproot and maybe I fire it up or I bury it. And I don't use actually no chemicals. You could eat it with a lot of what? Joy. One time also I grew skuma wiki along the fence at home. And that one was no spraying at all. So you eat your skuma wiki when you're 100% sure, zero contamination. So we need to do a lot about the farmers that actually spraying should be necessary when it's necessary. But again, the time of withdrawal is the one actually people have to respect almost all the time. So the abuse is about withdrawal time. When do you spray and when do you take the market? So we need to do some kind of work there. I went again the sector of dairy. I moved down the country, all over the country, asked them about antibiotic, how they administer them the animal, and when they milk the cows. And asked them one question: when you give the animal antibiotics, where do you put the milk? They told me, we buy it there. Then actually, that for me, I knew it was a lie. And again, other people told me they give to dogs. Then I said, the dog is more like you. Why do you give the milk which is that antimicrobial resistance, which is persistent now, which we don't know, is because of that abuse. So we need to do a lot with the farmers to make them aware. But again, the consumer should resist from such kind of thing that when you spray, it makes the thing what? Stay for long. Thank you.
So I can see we have great ideas. We have panel discussions tomorrow, and I'm being reminded that we are preempting tomorrow. So you really have to come back. Oh, he's on the phone. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, members, and thank you for the discussion since morning. I just want to share something very practical here as well, which you've been talking about. And when you look at what we have as a challenge, the answers begin with us. How often do we communicate, and how do we communicate? Your scientists here using your terminologies. You are talking after aflatoxins. Does a common person outside there know what aflatoxins are? How are they going to demand what they don't know? You have the information, you are communicating parables, you're communicating in linguages which they don't understand. Let's simplify communication and stop using those jargons. Simplify the language. Then two, we have standards. For us as exporters, actually I cannot say we are compliant because of our systems here or because of my sister there who does the compliance checks, but because of the demand from the market, the customer. But that customer's demand was derived from the sensitization that was done before his or her country signed on that standard. My brother here was showing all the standards. Do you know that even us who are here don't know that those standards exist? So how do you expect Mr. Chimbugu and something down there to understand those? Now, us here, we have eaten and enjoyed that food down there. Do you know where it has come from? Those greens you ate must have come from Buambo. And they are actually applying what the doctor was talking about, he doesn't apply. A few years ago, I was still a student when Nagric introduced the broiler chicken. I was among the first people to start, because at the university, I had a coursework project on poultry, and I decided to do that at home. So I purchased 1,500 chicken. So my neighbor, who was also rearing chicken, I realized his results were much better than mine. But when I found out he was using antibiotics, so I immediately reported back to Nagric, Dr. Muviru, and I was shut down that I'm a poor farmer. So I should not use that excuse. Now, many years down the road, about 2 years ago, I saw it in the newspaper, and it was coming as if it is news. People have been feeding the chicken all sorts of antibiotics, and we eat here. So let's begin from us. George was presenting there, and I know George is really passionate on this because he has been around for some time and he understands. Now you look at the EPING user statistics, they are very worrying, not so. But look at, as a country, how many red alerts did we get in a year? I think about 500 and plus, more than the total use of the what? So you can see, but it's not that the community or the population doesn't consume information. They look for easy information. And I had shared something with Caroline on what, as a sector, we have done in fisheries. We have simplified communication. You have people, actually, majority of the people who are dominating production are illiterate. They are the ones who are producing what we are eating. They are the ones who are producing our raw materials. And therefore, you must ensure that we work with them. How would you work with them? You are not going to take there your science. You are not going to take there your good English. You must take there a language which they understand. And how have we done it in the fish industry? We have developed photographic communication. You just look at a photo and it communicates without even explaining anything. Even a person will understand by just visual aids. Whichever language that person speaks, whichever understanding in terms of education levels, he will get the message from. Just a simple picture will communicate a whole Bible of information. And I think that's what we need to adopt as the stakeholders. But please, from here, simplify your language. Simplify the communication. Doctor, you talked about the drumming. And the drumming of the HIV/AIDS and actually the campaign against COVID. You saw how successful we were as a country the risk assessment was done effectively well and mitigation measures put in place. But the lead was by the president, which again was the same person who did that during the HIV/AIDS fight. Now, when the president handed over to the technical people, we slipped back. So what does that indicate? Again, it is me and you who are the challenge that we need. Actually, the mindset should begin with us. The way we communicate, the way we view things, the way we analyze and understand the people that we are communicating to, not us to communicate to ourselves. Thank you.
Can we give him another clap? I know you're tired. So I think we have to wrap it there. I think you are okay with that? Okay. Oh, did you say final? Oh, I thought you were saying fine. After that, we shall have Caroline give us like housekeeping.
Okay.
Goodbyes.
I know my young brother likes lamentations, but let me say one thing. We tend to make simple problems so complex. There is government airtime available under the UCC Act for all radio stations and television stations. It's available for free. Of course, government standing orders are a bit tricky. You don't talk to the press before you get clearance from the PS or whatever it is. But we've had discussions now. I will have the other hat of the Consumer Association with the Ministry of ICT. We submitted a concept and they seem to be comfortable with it to issue a directive to licensed communication operators to provide that information. Are people available to be talking to the citizens of this country using that free airtime? Because usually the problem is the money to pay for it. The simplifying is very easy to do, but sometimes it costs money. We worked on the grain standard, we simplified it, but it cost money. I was a consultant on a project that was also included this young lady called Pamela, that was funded by so anyway, that is also doable. But what are the practical steps to go to achieve that? We can discuss that tomorrow. Just throw.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for today. Unfortunately, we are finishing a little bit late, but it is, I would think it's okay because it's been quite fruitful. Housekeeping, I know Professor had mentioned that there's a transport refund. It is there. It is small though, but we will not be giving it today. So we shall give it tomorrow. We'll try and finish 3:30, latest 4. So we shall finish early. So because being a Friday, I think people want to retire early. Then the other thing for today is there's tea and coffee and bites. Please do not leave them here. They have already been paid for. Yeah, I think that's it. For those who want photos taken, we have a good photographer here. The photos will be available tomorrow in a link. They are on Mississippi State University, so you will not pay anything. Yeah, other than that, thank you very much. I think we can close for today.
Five. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for the good time we've had. Thank you for the fruitful discussions. May you bless each one of us. May you watch over us. May you take us safely to our residences, and may you bring us back safely tomorrow morning. In Jesus' name we do pray.